Hey, welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. It is another Thursday morning, and hopefully everyone is doing great, having a good week. We're getting into spring here, and it is amazing how fast the time is just flying by. So, yeah, it's wild. We're getting close to a league night and all that for me, so absolutely excited. So, before we get into today's episode, just want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Titleist and the new Pro V1 and Pro V1X golf balls. How does the best get better? Well, we're going to find out, because now there's a brand new Titleist Pro V1 and Pro V1X. The original launch of the Pro V1 was in 2000, so this year marks the 25th anniversary of the Pro V1. Titleist R&D asked players what they wanted in the new Pro V1 and the Pro V1X, and they said more spin on scoring shots into the green. Titleist R&D delivered, as both models give players increased spin. They also provide more speed off the tee and more control with the irons. Many on tour are already teeing it up with the new Pro V1 and Pro V1X, including Wyndham Clark and Will Zalatoris. The new Pro V1 is a great fit for most players and a great place to start in your golf ball fitting process. Compared to Pro V1, the Pro V1X has a higher flight and a firmer feel, but there's also Pro V1X Left Dash, if you're looking for a flight similar to Pro V1X, but with much lower full swing spin and a firmer feel. Visit Titleist.com for everything there is to know about the new Pro V1, Pro V1X, and Pro V1X Left Dash today. So hopefully, hopefully you guys are having a good week. It is crazy how fast this year. I mean, I can't believe it's going to be Masters next week. It's crazy. We're flying through here. I am so excited to start up. I just sent the money for my league over to my commissioner, so I'm paid up. I'm ready to go. We start on the 17th. So mark your calendars, 17th. First what's in the bag for league. It may not be the absolute full what's in the bag, meaning the actual gamer stuff that I'm going to use. I have until about August to figure that out for my guys trip, but it will be probably something along the lines of a lot of starting equipment. So it's going to definitely be interesting, and there's still it's wide open. My good buddy Daniel Owen, who I met through the PGA shows and all that, and such a good dude. He asked me the other day. He was like, so. He was testing out some clubs. He goes, well, what's on the, what's getting in the bag? What's the bag look like? And I was like, it's not even close. Like there's nothing there. Like wedges might be in, and that could be about it. So irons are a good battle. We're going to talk about an iron today that actually is right in the thick of it. Right now, it's kind of between, last year was kind of P770 and Thai Fusion. Really like both those irons, still have them. And we'll see how that goes. But there's a new iron that we're going to talk about today. That is definitely in the mix, and a couple other ones that are waiting in the background as well. So a lot of tough stuff to test. Driver is nowhere even close. I got so much work to do. I just don't have enough time in the day to get enough swings in each day to figure out what I need. So I definitely need this weather to get a little better and warm up. It's kind of unseasonably cold in a sense right now. Ton of rain this week. I think we're supposed to get like snow next Friday or something. I mean, it's like, it just looks terrible. So I'll be indoors a little bit here, it looks like, for a little bit. But then I will be outdoors soon enough and hitting some golf balls. So unfortunately, the bag is still a little ways away. But there's certain things that are kind of like narrowing themselves out, getting in and out and narrowing certain things down. So it is happening, but it's not quite there yet. But today we're going to jump in and talk about one of the sets of irons that is definitely got a shot at the bag. It's a set of irons that I think I've talked about a few times very briefly. And like I said, the original story started with these at the end of last year that Cobra Golf came out with the limited 3D irons. They had the interesting little, 3 backwards and in the end of limited, but the limited irons that were 3D printed. And they sent in a 7-iron. I took pictures of it, put it in the forum, all that. But I never really hit it because it was just a random kind of 7-iron sitting there. And when I went out to Cobra at the end of last year to see kind of all the new product for 2025, I was sitting there and Mike Yeagley was like, hey, man, did you ever hit that iron? I said, no, I didn't. It's just 7-iron. He was like, man, just go hit it. Just go hit it for me. Let me know what you think. You don't have to do anything about it. Just hit it. Let me know what you think. I want to know, what you're feeling on it. So I took that thing out to the range and hit it. And I was absolutely shocked about how good it was from everything, from the look, the sound, the feel, all that stuff, the performance. It just was insane. I was like, wow, these are really, really kind of special. And then when I was there, getting the whole presentation, they showed me that there will be, there is now, a Cobra 3DP Tour iron, which is basically the exact same iron. just with a different kind of logo on it. They put a bigger Cobra badge in the back, and it's called the 3DP Tour. So this is, I think, the world's first mass market 3D printed iron, and it is really, really good. So this thing here is made out of, it's 3D printed from 316 stainless steel, and they print the whole set. So, you know, whether, I think it's 3 iron through gap wedge, they're all 3D printed. Now the 3D printed, I think in batches, I believe it's like, you know, they do all 7 irons, big tray of 7 irons, big tray of 8 irons, big tray of 9 irons, whatever it is. But it was pretty cool to see, you know, how they had these things kind of laid out. And this machine, you know, 3D printing machine just goes through with stainless steel and prints these things out. And they come out with a slightly rougher shape than what the finished product you see is. But that is all polished down by robots, so it's extremely consistent. The soles, all that stuff, like they're not varying, they're not hand ground, hand polished. They're all robotically polished after that. And the cool thing is, if you ever to cut this thing open, or if you just go to, like, you know, Cobra's website, they have kind of you know, the image where if you cut the face off this thing, inside is this lattice structure. So it's a bunch of little kind of like bars that run through the head of this thing. And it basically, the head itself, the steel, all that, only makes up like 33% of the club head. And then what they do is they have these 2 little pockets in the toe and the heel that they shove huge tungsten weights in. And I want to say it's something like, you know, up to 100 grams of tungsten in one of these heads. So you have basically this thing full of air. There's nothing in this thing other than 2 big, you know, tungsten weights and this lattice structure. And what they did with the lattice structure is they made sure that created good sound and feel, and it also supports the face. So these aren't like hollow body speed iron. They're hollow body, but they're not like the P770s, or like if you want speed, you would go get the King Tech iron, you know, that, or the King Tech X. This is for that player who wants more consistency and wants good sound and feel, but also wants some stability. And it is a much smaller package than the King Tech. So when you look at the King Tech, definitely a little bit bigger. Overall larger head size, maybe just a touch more offset, slightly thicker top line. But this thing here creates some pretty insane MOI for having, you know, basically no weight in it other than these 2 huge tungsten plugs. So a very, very cool design. And when I first saw it, I was kind of like, okay. And you can kind of see this lattice in the back, you know, in the back cavity. The real lattice is a little bit rougher than that. It's a little different. It's a little bit larger. You can go on Cobra's website and kind of see it. But the little lattice structure in the back is just kind of showing off. But it's really, that's just a decorative piece. The real lattice structure is definitely quite different. And they went through a few different versions from what Mike told me to figure out what kind of sounded best, felt best, and performed really well. Because the lattice structure there, I guess you need it to support the face. Because if you didn't, the face, you know, you'd have to make it so thick. And so it's thinner, and they support it with these lattice structures. And then also, I guess, printing it, you know, when you print a head, trying to print like a hollow body, like it'll just collapse on itself if there's not something kind of holding it together. So the lattice structure works there as well as they build the iron. So some pretty cool stuff, really interesting. We're finally seeing, I know, you know, Cobra's kind of first to do a lot of the 3D printing out in production. I know we've now seen some stuff from Avoda and some other smaller brands and stuff like that that's out there. National Custom Works that do some really heavy 3D printing, some really cool stuff. But on a mass sale market, this is the first iron. And I do have to say, when you pull it out, these things, I would say the lofts are just are pretty average. You're playing a 41 or a 21.5 4 iron, 21.5 degrees, 31 degree 7 iron, and a 45 pitch. So a little strong at the top, but good back to traditional down to the pitching wedge. But these things out of the box are absolutely beautiful. Now mine here, I know you're looking at here, I kind of did a little like kind of weird bluish gray paint fill. I was just kind of messing around one day, and then I liked the look of it, so I slapped them on here. But I've got the set, it's 4 through gap wedge. So I've got the gap wedge there, which looks pretty good. It's not bad, but out of the box, these things look awesome. I mean, they look just kind of like the limiteds, just with different logos on them. I think they look really sharp. They have that kind of muscle back kind of look to it. It's very clean, very players looking, very kind of aspiring. And for a guy like me who's, you know, struggling to get back to that single digit, as I'm going to start the year at an 11, you know, it's an iron that when you look down, you go, man, that's a player's iron. It just looks really good. It's got just a little bit offset. The top line's a good size. It's not too thick. It's kind of rounded and softened a bit too. The toe is just a little bit more squared off than, say, the King Tech. It's not quite as round and bubbly as, say, Callaway, but it's not near as sharp and boxy as like a Mura. So kind of in between there in terms of the looks and the sharpness. But I like how it looks. I think behind the ball, it looks good. It's not too small where you're a little bit intimidated, but it's not so big where you're also like, man, this is a big club to hit. It looks really, really good behind behind the ball. And again, the handicap range on this is going to be wider just because of how stable this head is. It's definitely going to be a wider range of player. It's not just going to be, a 5 and below or something like that, which most irons, I think, if you took this size, you would probably say like, yeah, this is like a, Mizuno Pro 243 or something like that. It's pretty tiny. So a lot of players would probably be turned off. But yeah, but I got the set 4 through gap wedge. Been hitting them a lot on the mat and hitting them with the launch monitor because outside it's still really crappy. Like today was 36 and it just poured, like literally poured all day. So indoors has been everything with these so far. I've done a little bit of my net outdoors in the backyard when it was nice out, but I've not been, hitting these out on the course or anything like that yet, which I'm extremely, extremely excited to do. So again, out of the box, look really great. I think they got a nice kind of this satin chrome on here, that little kind of matte silver painted lattice structure in the back. And yeah, they look really solid. I think the blade length looks good. It's slightly stretched from heel to toe, but I think it's, this day and age when you're seeing a lot of longer blades from heel to toe, it fits right in perfectly. So the leading edge is pretty straight. Like I said, just a touch of offset to it in the 7-iron here. When you get down to like the 8, 9-iron, stuff like that, it really is very minimal. You're not seeing much offset at all. Like the 7-iron, they say 2.1 millimeters. Where the pitching wedge is 1.6, and it does look very, very square. Like I'm shocked that it's 1.5 or 1.6 because it feels like it's less than that. But these 4 through 6 built up with dynamic gold mid 115 stiffs and just some Golf Pride MCC white black grips, standard size, no extra wraps, nothing, standard length, standard lie, all that. So really, right out of the gate, just a good, nice set of irons. But from looks, look fantastic behind the ball, absolutely good. Even the 4-iron, which starts to look a little bit more compact to me because I don't play near as many 4-irons as I used to, still looks pretty decent behind the ball, and it doesn't intimidate you too bad. But the 5 through pitch or 5 through gap is totally fine. So when you get them out there, feel on these really, really good. And this was the same way with the limiteds. When I hit the limiteds, again, I didn't expect much. I expected it to kind of be a little bit, I don't know, I want to say clunky, but I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Then hitting balls with it, really impressed with how well that thing sounded and felt. This thing, again, you would just think this is a Forge Club. Hitting it, it feels like a Forge Club. It's got a little bit of hollow bodiness to it that you can kind of feel out of it. Even stuff that's filled with foam and all that, you kind of have that feeling of this is hollow body. It's just got that, that little bit of click or a little bit of firmness in the face that you feel that. But this thing here, it feels like a forged iron. It's not as soft as a Mura, compared to the TC202. It's not that soft. It's not as soft as the S3, in my opinion. But for being a open hollow body lattice structure, it feels fantastic. I think you put this up against pretty much, other forged irons out there, ZX5, stuff like that. And anything multi-piece, the 925 forged. From Mizuno, all those, like this thing feels just as good, if not slightly better, but extremely solid feeling, very responsive. You're going to know when you miss it. The feel is soft. When you get out, into the heel a little bit, you don't notice too much of a change there. When you get on the toe a little bit, you're going to feel a little bit more vibration. Nothing too crazy, but the heel side is definitely feeling pretty solid. The sound on it, just a little bit of click. Nothing too crazy. Again, I use Pro V1X, so you're going to get a little more click than say a Pro V1 or like a Chrome Soft or Chrome Tour. Those balls being a little bit softer, a little softer coverage, you're probably not going to notice as much of that. A little audible click. This one's got just a little bit of it. It's nothing too crazy. Whether I'm indoors or out, you're going to hear just a touch of it. But it's a heavy, it's not ear piercing. It's a heavy kind of lower tone. It feels good, and it sounds really good on well-struck shots. Well-struck shots, extremely solid. And then, when you look at performance on these things, performance on this thing, I put a post on Instagram, if you want to follow me on Instagram, at Club Junkie Pod, that showed kind of my 7-iron and the dispersion on it. And that dispersion was so tight compared to the next best 7-iron in a sense. It fit inside that oval, and you could have fit 2 of these, the oval from the 3DP Tour. two of those ovals inside the oval of the next kind of most consistent iron that I was hitting. One, it's just a good iron to swing. I think wherever that CG is perfectly, on this club, it fits well with my swing. Swinging it, there's certain clubs you just pick up, you swing them, and you just go, man, that feels really good. Without even hitting a ball, you just kind of feel it. That's kind of how this is. It just feels really, really good. It's easy to square up, easy to hit, and honestly, performance-wise, extremely, extremely higher performance than you think a club like this is going to give you. From numbers on it, just to go through those. I mean, carry number, I was hitting 7-irons, and my average carry is 164. Which is really kind of like hollow body iron. Like that's where my P770 lives, is right around that 160 to maybe 165-ish area. So 164 is my average. Again, like I didn't really have any missed shots with it when I was taking numbers. Like there wasn't too many balls that fell down. I think a 159 was probably the lowest shot I hit, but there was 167s, but extremely consistent. 164, everything was right around there. There was 167, 66s. I think 67 was the longest, but a couple 66s, couple 65s, and then 4s, 3s all around there. I think I won like 159, but everything was like literally in this tiny little round circle. And I was just striking it easily in the center over and over again. So makes me kind of excited to get them out of the course, see if that carries over onto the course. But so far, I mean, between the limited and these, and I've hit a few, had a couple different rain sessions, I've been hitting these things really, really solid. So it's easy to get to the center, easy to square up, and I think they feel great throughout the swing. So carry 164, spin 5597 was my number there on average for 7-iron. So a little lower than something like, I'm trying to look. I think that it wasn't the JPX. I think it was like the ZXi7 was right about the same, 5684. The JPX 925 Forge was 5317. Trying to see what are some of the other irons here. The Pro S3 from Mizuno was 5883. So nothing too crazy. ZX5 was actually in the high fours, so definitely higher than that. But overall, as an Iron Lux, it's pretty much, right in line with everything else. And, again, those days of like a 7-iron should spin 7,000 just don't happen anymore. The clubs, the balls, all that stuff just doesn't spin enough. So, that 5597, pretty happy with that. I think the lowest I saw on there was like 5,000. I think there was like a 5,032. And then I think there was maybe just a couple shots that broke 6. Really not much. I think there was only 1 or 2 shots that actually broke 6. Only one at the 5,032, and then there was like a couple lower in the 53s, 52s. But everybody I think kind of lived in 54 to 56. And when you look at the numbers, 55.97, that's pretty much where I ended up. So the consistency on shots, especially when you're right around the center and you're striking it well, is not going to fluctuate much. Really, I mean, a couple of those shots, I mean, the 5,000 was probably the ball that went the furthest left, and that ball that touched 6,000 was probably the one that went the furthest right, and they really weren't that far apart from each other. So really consistent on every swing there. You're just not going to see huge spikes, huge jumps of ball speed. And I think, with a 7-iron that spins say 5,600. I had a question earlier on Instagram asking about flyer lies. Like, how do you feel about flyers? Well, I live in Michigan, Metro Detroit. All of our courses, it is, a fairway that's cut fairly tight, and then next to it you have rough. And the ball typically, I don't know exactly what kind of grass it is. I think it's whatever, it's green grass. The ball kind of sits down in it. And if you're in the rough, you don't hit the fairway, you're almost always going to have grass behind the ball when you make contact. So yes, if you get some low spin distance irons, you can see some stuff really shoot out there, and you can fly it over the green, no problem, or fly it to the back, or, hit shots that you just don't see coming. I feel like this one here with that spin number, it's going to be something where you're not going to see a whole lot of flyers. It may add a little bit of distance, but you're not going to fly the green or, put it 20 yards over or anything like that. You're probably going to be able to catch it a little further beyond the pin or something like that. You're not going to have to worry. I'm not too worried about seeing flyers with this iron with that spin number. Ball speed number was 114.8, which was pretty darn good. I want to say that was basically right with the Strixon ZXi5, so pretty darn fast. 112 I had with the JPX 925, so right near there. But a lot faster than I thought. I did not think this iron was going to be as fast as it showed. I thought this was definitely going to be a slower iron, not produce that kind of ball speed. But when you're hitting it solid, you're hitting it in the center, you're going to produce some ball speed. So 114.8 was my average, and again, same thing. The fluctuation on that was not great. You saw good ball speed across most of the center of the face. And like I said, I just swinging these irons well. I'm not hitting it way off the toe, way off the heel, or anything like that yet. I will definitely get to those shots shortly, but 114.8 is pretty darn fast for me. Launch 20.3, which again I think is right in line with kind of everything else. ZX5 is 21, ZX7 20.2, so basically the same launch as ZX7. Mizuno launched a little higher at 22.2, and then the S3 of course launched at 19.7. So launch wise, really in line with everything else in terms of the 7 irons I've been hitting from a lot of the new product. Really, really close there at 20.3. On my full swing kit, everything looked good. When you look at the window, apex wise on that ended up being 100 feet, which for me is pretty good. I'm not a super high ball hitter. I'm not going to see those 120 foot type apexes that a lot of you can get to. I can't get to that. So 100 feet for me is pretty darn good. And when I look at a lot of the other irons, the JPX 925 Forge hit 104, ZXI5 hit 102, ZXI7 95. So pretty much right there at 100 feet. I'm really happy with that. I think it's going to go into the greens, it's going to land soft. It's going to be able to kind of stop and have some good distance control. And I think if you're going to hit it that high out of the rough, the release is still going to be fairly minimal, and you're going to get away with. You're not going to be penalized too much hitting in the rough there when you do have those shots. Then smash factor 1.37, which was my smash for those irons. I didn't really have smash on others because I was hitting them. I think I was hitting them with the Bushnell Launch Pro, and I didn't have stickers on them, so I didn't get any club data on that. So I wasn't able to produce smash on a lot of those irons. But this one here had the like I said 1.37. And I don't know where I felt like I'm missing some irons here in terms of my big sheet, but that was the numbers there for the 3DP Tour. Now the one thing I do say is that with those irons, with all the numbers, that's great. The biggest thing was just how consistent it was. Like I was hitting shot after shot in the same spot, in the same location. And one thing too is that they just felt the same. Like every swing kind of just felt like I was hitting the same shot. And I don't get that very often because I'm not that skilled. Like I don't have that kind of game where I can just, the swings all feel repeated, and I'm just hitting, great shots every, shot after shot after shot. These things definitely gave me a feeling of that. And that was pretty darn cool to feel like, man, I just hit that one there. And they were all just slightly left of target. So my target line, down there, I was just left on every single one of them. But nothing like big old sweeping draws. Everything had like a hair of a draw to it. Or were dead straight. Nothing was, big old hooks or anything like that. The dispersion chart was just extremely tiny. So, when you looked at that, it was pretty nice to see. And also, no matter what kind of swing you put on it, the ball just wants to go straight. That tungsten here, the stability, the high MOI of it, it's just got like the MOI and the stability of a much larger, much more forgiving club stuffed down into this small package. And to be honest, it's pretty impressive to hit these and see what they do. And listen, I know they're not cheap. They're definitely not. I mean, the cost on these is I think $2,500 for a set. So they are definitely not cheap, and I will admit that. But I do have to say, for what they've stuffed into these in terms of the tech, I think these are going to be kind of a sleeper iron this year. I think this is going to be an iron that guys like me who are hovering right around that single digit, you're able to put these in the bag and not be penalized on a bad day for playing this iron. So you're not going to get crazy speed out of it, but I think for what you're going to lack in that wild speed off the face, you're going to get in stability. And I think having that tungsten there, the club just just wants to be square. It just wants to be square at impact. It doesn't want to fly open or snap shut. Even if you miss it just a little bit, it just stays straight. It was pretty amazing to see. And again, that's what I saw with the limiteds last year when I hit those out on the range. I was amazed. Like it was just like you could throw a hula hoop out there and just knock balls into it because it just wanted to go straight. Now, if you're somebody who I got to work the ball everywhere, I think you're still going to be able to do it. Now, it's a much more stable head, so like this compared to a King Tour. The King Tour, you're going to be able to work probably a little bit more compared to this. But again, that's going to be just a slightly different iron. To me, that one, spins just a touch more. It's a little bigger club head. it's still pretty darn forgiving. It's just not near as stable as this on those miss hits. So, like I said, really impressed with these. I don't have turf interaction because I haven't been able to hit them yet. They look like they got a decent amount of like a decent radius on the bottom. So we should see some pretty good turf interaction. I don't think they're going to dig like crazy. I also think they should get through the turf pretty quickly. They got a little trailing edge relief, so they should release. And yeah, the leading edge is, a touch sharp, but not bad. It's fairly rounded off. And with that, not being a crazy, crazy wide sole, nor crazy narrow, I think these will get through the turf fairly well. I don't think they're going to dig too much, even in the really soft conditions up here in Michigan. So, yeah, I've been a big fan of these things. I think I'm excited to get these out of the course. I'm excited to see how they play. The 4-iron is going to be a little iffy. I was hitting the 4-iron, and the 4-iron was I was able to kind of mishit that a little bit just because it's a 4-iron. And but I was about to say I think the launch on that ended up being really, really good. I had some so on the 4-iron, which I don't really play anymore because I typically play a hybrid now just to add a little bit of distance there. But seeing shots that were kind of 185, 186, 187, stuff like that was pretty encouraging. I mean, the same thing when you look at the dispersion on there on that 4-iron. Super, super tight. Definitely a little bit bigger circle front to back because as I miss it, you saw a little bit drop off in speed. I mean, I saw some 176s in there and stuff like that when I really missed it. But in terms of well-struck shots, again, in a really, really tight little circle there. And that was impressive to see because 4-iron, again, I don't think the distance on the 4-iron in this set is going to be able to have it be a gamer in my bag. We'll see what it does. But the 4-iron typically has just become too close to my 5-iron. And with the numbers that it's showing there, it's going to be pretty darn close. So I'm going to have to probably, drop the 4, put in a hybrid, which is fine. I've been doing that for a little while now. But it's something that, in terms of being able to hit, I can definitely hit it. What was the launch on it? I gotta go back in here and check. 4-iron launch. So launch on the 4-iron was 16 degrees, so a little bit lower, 16 degrees, but not too bad. I mean, for me, again, 4-irons, when I hit them well, they're a little bit more penetrating fall flight. They don't really come in and land soft, but 16 degrees on that. And then let's see, what were we with spin? So 4-iron, we were at 37.41 in terms of spin. So much like kind of like the 7-iron, 4 and 4,000 is pretty tough to get to. I was pretty close to it. And again, a lot of those shots kind of more left, but again, consistency. I mean, between 33.89 and 45.63 was pretty much my window there. So seeing a lot of shots that were very, very close in terms of consistency. There wasn't anything super low or anything super high across all those shots, whether they were missed, hit a little low in the face, hit a little bit more on the toe. Those balls all, spin-wise, were really, really consistent. So I don't hit pitching wedge, especially like this session. I was hitting my net in my backyard, and I have my full swing kit, and my net just isn't quite tall enough. So I can launch one into the neighbor's yard if I'm there. So I didn't hit pitching wedge just to be safe, and didn't want to blow out any of his windows or anything like that. But overall, I'm really excited about the Cobra 3DP Tours. I think these are going to be played by a lot of people. I think you're going to see them kind of be the sleeper iron this year for a lot of players. And I think this is definitely an iron that could potentially be in the gamer bag. I think this is one. It could beat out the P770 from last year. Again, it's got to fight with the Mizuno. It's got to fight with a couple other irons, but at the moment, it's definitely got a chance where it could make a run for the starting part of the bag. So it probably won't be 4 through gap wedge. I'm assuming it'll probably play more like 5 through pitch. We'll see how the gap wedge goes. I haven't hit it yet on the course, and I do use my gap wedge a little bit around the green, hitting pitch shots and things like that. When you're on the front of the green, pin's kind of in the back, hit little pitch shots there. So we'll see how that goes. And if I like the feel of that, I mean, heck, we'll add it in because the full shots with it will be really, really good. So that is the brand new Cobra 3DP Tour irons. Like I said, I'm a big fan. I think they're going to have a chance at the bag. So anyway, that's all I've got this week. Again, if you want to follow me on social media at Club Junkie Pod, if you want to, wherever you're listening to this show, if you could like, subscribe, follow, whatever. If you're watching on YouTube, yes, you can watch on YouTube and see my ugly face. Just look up Club Junkie and like, subscribe, all that stuff would be great. So that's all I've got this week. Next week we'll jump into something new. I don't know what. I know maybe next week I'll get a little closer to what's in the bag and maybe talk a little master stuff. So anyway, you guys have a great week or weekend. Play some golf if you can. I'm going to do some indoor golf, and we'll talk next week.